I'm delighted to introduce our panelists. Paige Andrew, the Commissioner of Community Services for the City of Kingston, Craig Rattan, Policy Director for the Toronto Region Board of Trade, Leith Moore, Founder and Principal of Our House, and Arash Shahi, CEO of ACO Innovation Lab. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give some short introductory remarks, and then we will proceed to the discussion portion of the panel. Please feel free to submit questions through Whova, and I will pose them to our panel as time allows. One note for those watching at home, I will have to dip out of the panel a bit early to prepare for the next one, but Arash has kindly agreed to help wrap this panel up for us to go to the scheduled endpoint. That all said, Paige, would you like to start us off?
Thanks, John. Hoping that's transmitting okay. Perfect. Thanks, Craig.
You're good.
So thanks for having me. I'm glad to be part of this session. And in the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about 3 or 4 really key ideas that we've been working on with the City of Kingston over the last 5 to 7 years. And most specifically, I want to talk to you about how we've become a yes city and why that's really important in the national housing crisis. The number one thing that we've been doing is really becoming transformative leaders. And that's been an approach to a cultural change and a transformative approach to our leadership and development of our staff. And there's multiple different ways that we've been working on that with respect to housing affordability. We've been looking at and implementing faster and better planning approvals, and that's been very intentional. And to that point, we've been able to do over 4,000 new housing units in the last 3 years. And 170 affordable units, which is huge for us. Normally, prior to my time with the City of Kingston, our average build was about 580 a year, and now we're well over 800. So we've seen more housing go to market in the last 3 to 4 years than the city had ever seen previous, and that's been an effort from a lot of people building a positive staff culture, really looking at our staff, trying to connect the dots on housing priorities, and also looking at other council priorities as well when we're working on things. Really focusing on building education, awareness, and knowledge of our council and community. So when tough decisions come to them, they're really fully backed with an understanding of what they're deciding on. A real focus on transparency of a process and accessible information. So we have an open data platform. We have a digital platform for sharing all of our information, and that helps to streamline the development approvals process here in the City of Kingston. And perhaps most importantly, really recognizing and doubling down on the importance of partnerships, both with the not-for-profit sector and private sector, because we can't solve the housing crisis alone. Trying to advance to next, oh, here we go. Oh, there's a bit of a time delay. The next idea I'm going to talk to you about, if I can actually get the slide to go back to where it was supposed to be, is we became innovators and bold thinkers. And when I talk about this, it's really about not just technology, but people and process change as well. That started in 2016 with the implementation of our digital platform. We call it DASH, Development and Services Hub, but it's meant to imply speediness as well. And through the delivery of that, like I've been talking about, we've really innovated with respect to how the public is accessing information, the quickness of what was once a very paper-led process. And then also looking at this year alone, another $600,000 of investment in planned improvements with respect to increased efficiency and a focus on user experience as well. We've been embracing partnerships with respect to new innovative forms of housing, and those have been 2 tiny home projects. And most importantly, in terms of innovation and bold rethinking, we've been moving from our business as usual, which was once reflective in the city a number of years ago, to our entire approach to planning, with a focus on really looking at enabling good development in the right places and what we refer to as green lighting. So creating a whole framework so that we can enable good development in the right places with a minimal amount of process. So that has been a multiple year process that we've been working on, and we have been able to make significant inroads in the last number of years in particular. The third thing we've been doing, again, this slide is reflective of how we've become land economists and climate change students. And this has become really important in understanding all the linkages with housing affordability and being really specific about training our staff around the connections between land economics and urban design. And that's translated specifically into changes with respect to how we're regulating building form, I've noted here a couple of key projects that we've been working on, but in particular, the land economics became really important when we were looking at things like floor plate efficiencies, building envelopes, consideration of greenhouse gases with respect to materiality. And we've also undertaken a very radical rethink on parking to eliminate costs and promote multimodal living within the city in a variety of our new planning frameworks. So we've also been doing fiscal analysis with respect to life cycle and asset management and factoring that in so that we can be looking at the cost of infill versus greenfield development and really trying to educate our council on a whole new perspective on what the actual cost of growth is. My slides don't seem to be advancing, so I apologize for that, and certainly I'll provide them to the panel afterward. The last thing I just wanted to leave you with is, again, just reinforcing what we've done to become a yes city. We've looked at transformation, we've looked at land economics and climate change. We've certainly started with the culture of our staff and our education and our approach to building policy. We've embraced innovation very specifically, not in terms of just process, but also in looking at new technologies as well. And I know Leith is going to talk to you about some innovation and building technology that we're really excited about in the city of Kingston. And most importantly, I wanted to leave the message that I think what we've proven with the city of Kingston is that mid-sized cities, we can be leaders, and we are being leaders, that we can improve government process quickly. And I know there have been some historical perspectives on bureaucrats in cities, but I think city of Kingston, we're disproving that. And that we are a city that's really focused also on going further and faster. We're not stopping where we are with the inroads we've made, but we have significant places to go, and we are committed to that with a renewed foundation on building housing affordability as one of our most critical goals. So most importantly, the last message I want to leave you with is that the city of Kingston, we are a city that's ready to partner with you and look forward to engaging in further conversations. So thanks very much. And again, apology about my slides not working out.
No worries at all, Paige. Thank you. Craig, would you like to go?
Yes, I would. Thanks so much, John, and great presentation, Paige. I'm delighted to be here. And I guess I'll just start by saying, sometimes people ask, well, why is the Toronto Region Board of Trade interested in housing? And the main question and the main reason is that it is has a big impact on our economy. First of all, businesses need workers and workers need places to live. And that shortage is actually creating a disconnect that is already impacting our economy. We did a study last year with Wood Green looking at the impacts of the housing affordability crisis on the GTA's economy that found that the costs were between $6 to $8 billion a year already, and we're trending in the wrong direction. And so that's why we really feel it's necessary to take some bold action to start reversing that direction. And so I'm here today to speak largely about our Meeting in the Middle report and proposal that we put out in December. This is something we worked on with our Housing Affordability Committee. And we wanted to tackle this problem because we saw it as a simple solution. Well, there's no silver bullets in housing, and I think we're going to have on this panel today a discussion how we're going to need all of the above solutions to try and move the needle. This is one where really the province has the chance to lead. Missing middle housing, for those who don't know, is sometimes referred to as gentle density. It's things in between a single family house and a mid-rise or larger apartment building. And so we're talking things like duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, stacked townhomes, some of the density that is generally of the same sort of size and scope that could fit into existing residential neighborhoods. And while the City of Toronto has been making progress over the last number of years to bring this idea into fruition, and there have been some individual steps in a process going on right now, what we see is that the problem is bigger than any one city. And this is really a solution that we need to have the province lead on to raise the stakes across the bar. And so we have put forward this proposal that has 5 different elements to it. The main one is around ending exclusionary zoning and making it possible to build up to 4 units as of right on any residential lot. And we had proposed that for cities of 30,000 or more. Another really important part of it is establishing standards. So other places have taken this approach, places like Oregon, like California, and Minneapolis. And what we really see here is the need to try and eliminate some of the tools that might be used to prevent this housing from going forward, putting in a really large setback requirements, for example. And so we think it's important that the province proactively close these loopholes and set some basic standards for all municipalities to meet to make sure that this housing can actually be built once it is allowed under the Planning Act. Another key part of our discussion was around moderating development charges. So trying to ensure that that a 4-unit house in an existing neighborhood doesn't have an unfair number of new development charges and fees being put on top of it, given that it's largely using existing infrastructure, and that actually the number of people in that 4-unit house might be the same as the number of people who would have been in a single family house, say 30 years ago. And that's something else that we can see from statistics showing that in many existing residential neighborhoods, the size of the population has actually been dropping because of smaller family units living in each house and no new houses or units being built. And the last part of our proposal that I'll put out before turning it back over is around affordable ownership opportunities. That this is really a chance to create some new forms and types of housing that can be more affordable for first-time home buyers, for other people who have been locked out of the rapidly escalating housing market. And there are some new tools that the province could put in place to make that easier, including borrowing from British Columbia's model of strata ownership and making it possible for someone to buy, say, a floor of a triplex, buy one of those units, instead of needing to buy the whole house. And the reason for that is that our existing condo regulations can be very onerous and expensive to comply with, and it just doesn't make sense to go through that process for a really small building. So if we can create a bit of a condo light model, then that would make it easier for those units to be created and be available for purchase. And so these ideas were echoed really strongly in the province's Housing Affordability Task Force report, which we were very excited about, and see it as a really great place for the province to be able to lead on to really help start tackling the housing affordability crisis in a really tangible way for communities across the province. And I will leave it there.
Thanks so much, Craig. Leith, you are up.
Oh, well, good afternoon. It's good to be here. Let me get my little slideshow going. So good afternoon, our house. So I'm a reformed builder and developer. I spent 30 some years building high rise and low rise and townhouses. And I tried to build in this missing middle and discovered that it was economically more than challenged and often failed. And so started thinking about that and came to the conclusion there were ways to do it. And so our house, we are now, this is where we live. We live in the missing middle, and we're on a small is beautiful approach. And essentially, there are a lot of good planning policies. I realized that in mid-rise in Toronto, they had great policies. It wasn't so much the policy, it could have been more as of right, but it was pretty much as of right. The problem was equally with the industry. Our lack of productivity enhancements, our lack of creativity, our ability to only build high rises or townhouses or singles. And the industry just hadn't evolved very quickly over time, or at all. And so what we've done at our house is take the idea of working with municipalities. I'm a canoeist, so I like to think of it as paddling downstream rather than paddling upstream. We work with mass timber as a decarbonization strategy, no gas in our buildings. We have a repeatable floor plan, which allows us to put it into design for manufacturing and assembly, using the new productivity of offsite panelization, on-site tilt-up to be a faster construction. And while we're at it, we just happen to build it better. We use enhanced thermal envelopes. We're a very green building, and that means lower operating costs for our users. There you go. 5 weeks building up, all wood, everything above grade, done. And what I want you to notice is that this is all built in the backyard, not on the street. And so part of our whole the solution is to be able to build faster. As I said, we build better, sustainability, wood, interior wood stairs. We're an all wood construction above grade. We're the first all wood mass timber building in Ontario, if not Canada. I haven't had time to go and check everywhere. But again, I'll just sort of reiterate, there we are, we're building from the rear yard. And the streetcars never stop running, and we never blocked the laneway of traffic. And we are in it, you know, we can be in and out of a site from slab on grade construction. We don't like to dig holes and pour concrete to put cars in it. We build on transit areas. The key to what we've done here is zero lot line panelized construction, which has allowed us to open up a market area that to date the industry couldn't attack. It was considered too small. All my career I was told these are too small, they won't work, they don't scale. And at that time, that might have been true. But our house, by kind of adapting new productivity, offsite fabrication, we put the, we have a little bit of really creative alternate solutions to do wood stairs. So we're using no wet trades above grade. We have the walls are pre-clad so that we have our non-combustible construction from the outside in. So you can see we have built on both sides to a zero lot line in a middle of a block, which unheard of. And I'd call it an invention, except that it's not. I mean, it's just good building, figuring things out. Wood is good. Ontario wood is better. Used to be my tagline on my old BlackBerry. Finally get to say it. We have supply partners in Ontario for CLT now. The province of Ontario is involved in helping fund Element 5. And we like the local supply. It's just more cost effective. And we love being able to use wood above grade on 6-story, and we hope in the future 8 and 10-story buildings. It's healthier, it's warmer, it's lighter, it helps the carbon economy. It's just darn beautiful. We also tend to build more of a European solution. We do expose our ceilings as wood for wellness. There's lots of studies on that. We have direct access into our units from elevators. So we have a very accessible, age in place, intergenerational kind of building, even on a 6-story build. Outdoor spaces. This is designed to work on main streets everywhere. And the idea is that behind the front facade, it's all repeatable, designed for manufacturing assembly. So my architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, all shelved, all repeatable. My discussion with the city of Toronto, who I think are getting it right, is it's a pattern build. They know the site plan, so we can do concurrent approvals. We're really just discussing how we reflect neighborhood design, and we've created our repeatable build that we can basically hang any kind of facade on the front, and you know, a million different solutions. Behind it, one solution, and that is the secret to making small, scalable, and affordable, is the repeatability aspect. We are also now going much harder at what I really think is a huge opportunity for housing. And I think that every municipality in the province and the country should adopt the as of right approach that Toronto has taken for laneway suites and garden suites now, and to come on Yellow Belt. Unlock the cheapest land we have, land that people already have, and they will look for their own self-solve solutions. Hopefully call our house, and we'll give them our pre-designed fixed price solutions for their rear yards. But this is the best intergenerational housing you'll ever create. Or if you want to rent it out until your kids kick you out of your own house and you go live in it, you can have your own location in the back. And I think this is a huge opportunity, and it should be everywhere. What we've done, again, is we have repeatable design. We've got several architects that we use to give us kind of curated looks. But again, our panelized kit of parts, this is Passive House Light. The physics of Passive House, you can't, anyway, another day. Small, 6 to 1,000 square feet. We put up our structure here in a day on our pilot that we've just finished. So it's really exciting, I think, what can come here. And that's it. Small is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leith. Arash, you are our final presenter.
Thank you. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen here. Assuming you can all see that. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. Here from Eco Innovation Lab, and here to talk to you about what we are doing with One Ontario. Eco Innovation Lab is a digitalization partner. We've brought together about over 50 consultants, academics, industry, and government players together to basically provide a collaborative platform for our industry to work together. Our mission is to break down digital silos that are being created as part of this transformational movement that's happening within our industry. Unfortunately, our industry has been siloed for a long time. And with all these digitization efforts, we are now creating all these digital silos. So One Ontario, our flagship research project, is basically looking at breaking down these silos. So we are an industry-driven R&D platform, and here to talk to you about our core R&D project, which is One Ontario. Now, this project started about 6-7 years ago. So 2014 was when we started the project. It was actually RESCON who initiated the project. At the time, I was at the University of Toronto. We created a research center at U of T around this particular project of streamlining development approvals within the province. Our other colleagues at Ryerson and other entities have been working on this for a long time. There's a number of different initiatives that we've been involved with over the years, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but just wanted to kind of point out that this has been in the works for a long time. One of the projects we looked at, and this might be interesting to our municipal partners, we've scanned every digital system in municipalities worldwide. So it's a complete scan of international e-permitting systems, and we put them into 3 categories of level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 e-permitting is unfortunately what our province is moving towards, a lot of our municipalities, and that's the digital submission of 2D drawings. Now, just to put things in context, Singapore's of the world have done that about 25 years ago. So we are about a few decades behind level 1 e-permitting. Level 2 e-permitting, we're looking at submission of BIM to municipalities, so building information models, where we can start looking at automation. So going from digitization in level 1 to automation in level 2. And level 3 is an integration of BIM and GIS. And that's a number of jurisdictions internationally are already on level 3. So bad news is that our municipalities, for the most part, are pushing from level 0 to level 1. Good news is that level 3 has already been done internationally, and there is no real technology barrier. It's more of a policy barrier that we have to break down. And the better news is that we have a number of municipalities in our province who are working with us in piloting level 3 e-permitting. So it's coming, and it's coming sooner than most might think, but it will take some time. Now, in looking at all the work that's been done in this space over the years, whether it's a report from us, U of T, RESCON, and all these other stakeholders, they all say the same thing. We have end-to-end reviews happening at municipalities. We have consultants coming in with individual municipalities getting contracts to tell them exact same thing. We've looked at the problem. We know what the problem is. We know what the solution is. We just need to get it done. So these are, you've seen all these issues before: duplication of effort, fragmented, siloed solutions. But going a little bit a little deeper into it, and this is a unique problem that we have in the province. We have our municipalities who are investing heavily into their digital infrastructure. We also have authorities like conservation, MTO, and others who are investing in their digital infrastructure, but these systems do not talk to each other. So now, while from a municipal standpoint, every e-permitting provider will tell you that conservation can log into your system and review applications in your system, which is true if you look at it from a municipal standpoint. But from a conservation authority's perspective, a single conservation authority might service 20 different municipalities. So for them to log in 20 different systems is just not feasible. So therefore, fax it in or email it in. Or some of our partners have talked about innovations in the COVID era, such as curbside pickup. Your curbside picking up drawings that were created digitally to begin with right? But it's this breakdown of information exchange that's basically creating a lot of headache in our province. One Ontario was created to basically produce this data exchange standard. So every system that's being invested in right now can start communicating with each other. That was the underlying premise of One Ontario. Now, with that mandate in mind, we've put together the largest coalition ever in the province of Ontario when it comes to development approval process. We have the building officials, both the OBOA and LMCBO, the large municipalities chief building officials. We have the planning community, OPPI, Ontario Professional Planners Institute, is at the table. We have RESCON, the residential builders. We have OGCI, the ICI sector, and individual municipalities who've come on board and endorsed this vision. We've been talking to the province of Ontario. It's gone all the way to Premier's office and resulted in basically some of the announcements that you heard from Minister Clark this morning on the province basically backing the data exchange standard. So it's happening, and the reason it's happening is that we've come together as an industry and have given our government a direction of what needs to be done. Now, Craig had a very good point in part of his presentation, talking about a lot of the problems we are having cannot be solved by single municipalities. And this is exactly true here. No single municipality has jurisdiction to solve this problem, because conservations report to a whole other part of the government. We have MTO that reports to a whole other part of the government, and we have municipalities who have their own bureaucracies. But what's important here is, as the province, as all the stakeholders, development approval stakeholders at the province, if we come together, we can then ask our government and tell our government what needs to be done and basically help them get there. One of the challenges we've seen, unfortunately, recently is that there's some political solutions to something that's a very technical problem. So that's something that I would love to kind of talk to the panel here. But this is where we are. We have the attention of the province. It's really up to us to help shape what the future of this issue will look like. With that, I'll pause here. Over to you, John.
Arash, thank you so much for that. Unfortunately, I will have to go, but before I do, I want to ask Leith, based on your presentation. I mean, it almost sounds like our house has a almost like a regulatory hacking approach. You found the approach that works within the regulatory framework that exists, rather than necessarily try and make a revolution in policy making. I would love to hear you talk a little bit about more that just before I have to log off and go to the next panel, unfortunately.
Yeah, we should talk for hours about this. I think that in Toronto and Ontario, there's some brilliant planners, there's great policy, municipalities and planners aren't the evil empire. The industry just hasn't figured out how to build within it. And that's the thing, is that I've kind of approached it as, if they're my partner and I tell them I can build within the policy, and here's how. I've found a great willingness to work together. Now, it's not a solution for everything and everywhere. I think we can always have more streamlined approvals, et cetera, et cetera. But just having more approvals faster doesn't solve a problem. If you can't build it, and you can't build it more quickly, more cheaply, or more effectively, you haven't solved any problems. And you just made some land cheaper to get on stream. And I think that's the key. The key here is to be able to focus on how we build things and get into other markets. Our supply shortage is such that we can get all the approvals we want. We still can't build more than, 30 to 40,000 units in the province, whatever it is. I mean, so what? You just don't have the trades to do it. So we need to open up and be better at fabrication and off-site production. And I like the idea of being able to open up laneways and intent. The cheapest housing we're going to create is that in the backyard of people who already own their house. And we should do it everywhere. And to make every homeowner a developer. They already are when they come to object to you. Might as well be their own developer when they go to build.
Thank you for that, Lee. Just a follow-up question on that. I know you've been involved with the City of Toronto in getting the permits for this type of housing, and to basically as a repeatable design. so that they don't have to go through the entire approval process. What happens when you start pushing to a new municipality? Because what we've heard from the developers is that, it's very true of affordable housing specifically. If you have an affordable housing project that gets approved in one municipality, being able to leverage some of that approval process in going to different municipalities. Have you looked into that at all, or is that of interest to?
Well, yeah, it is a good question. And we spent a couple of years working with all the departments in Toronto and we had to prove our own validity that, we were serious. We would come back with repeatable. And now we're seeing the benefit of that. But, Lou, we were down in Kingston talking to Paige, is like, they want to see the lessons learned and quick to adapt. So we are in Ottawa now, we're in Hamilton now. Yes, we're having to have the discussions again, but they're shorter because we can show pilots, built form, how it worked, how it could work. And I am finding lots of support. It's not a cure-all, but I think that there's a path there somewhere that if the industry could get into a little more repeatability, still be beautiful. You're still leaving, the high rise and the low rise to be what it is. But now we're trying to enable the ability to build in this other missing middle, whole other market. That's how we can increase supply, I think.
Okay, thanks for that. There are a few questions that are coming in terms of what is the capacity of our house really to bring in. And what I'm hearing from you is that the supply chain issue might be the weakest link going forward.
Yeah, I think that there's lots of wood in Ontario. We grow a house every, I don't know what the stat is, every minute. So, by using a renewable resource. Our house is a company that's only 3 years old, but we can build thousands of units a year. And we might be the first doing it this way. We won't be the last. So I think that the opportunity to scale is huge. Call me, I'll build it for you.
That makes sense. Paige, I have a question for you. In terms of, we've talked to different municipalities, and we have individual municipalities who are willing to think outside of the box and kind of push the envelope a little bit. But at the end of the day, we need the province to kind of own a number of these initiatives, because again, it just goes beyond one municipality. From your experience, looking from a municipal perspective, what is the appetite in the province for municipalities to start working together? Is that something that we could hope to see? If that leadership is lacking from the top, can we have individual municipalities coming together and try to, whether within the concept of LMCBO or any other entity that basically brings municipalities together, do you see that as a viable path forward?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and I think it's going to be essential, because to your point with some of your slides about the tendency of municipalities or even technology to be thought of or implemented in a siloed fashion, I think is absolutely true with our land management system. And I was excited to hear what you were sharing with respect to BIM and GIS, ArcGIS integration. That's the stage we're at right now, evaluating BIM and looking at how that integrates with ArcGIS. For us, creating a digital twin of the city has been absolutely critical in helping us to map out and test out new types of housing. So we've, even in the short time that I've been with the city, it's like night and day from what was a person walking paper to a desk when I first started to now where we are facilitating everything digitally, but also having the ability to create that or replicate that in a 3D fashion, and how that's helping us to make decisions. But I do think that municipalities are on different platforms, and I think probably some of the hesitation or the feelings of worry that municipalities had with respect to some of the recommendations that came out recently from the province of like a one permitting system. What does that do with respect to our existing systems? Like, we've invested this money, what do we do with that? As I'm trying to integrate our internal systems, so we have a full enterprise system within planning, building, licensing, all of my groups, trying to integrate the technology. I agree with what you say too, is when you're working with technology providers, oftentimes they integrate and say, yes, of course, our system will talk to any system that you have and they'll work together and there'll be a streamlined downloading. We haven't found that to be the case. So I think there's a lot of future in partnerships. I mean, certainly that was one of my key points, and I think it's essential. I think the buying power of municipalities, I think the leveraging, the thinking, and working with industry is really important. And I think there's a lot of potential there that hasn't been fully tapped into. I think there is a willingness, with the chief planners around the province and the good work that's happening with the building officials through their association. I think there is that strong willingness. It's just a matter of like charting a path forward and having everyone together. So there's something tangible and it's not something we just theoretically talk about and then everyone kind of goes back to their own respective cities and does their own plan.
Well, that makes sense. Thanks, Paige. There is a question that came in on BIM, but before that, over to you, Craig. One of the questions that we had was, what's your perspective on the role of different levels of government? We got the municipal space was very engaged in this. We've got the provincial government that to some extent is supporting some of these initiatives and priorities. And there's perhaps a role for the federal government to play because when it comes to standardization, we can have a standard for a municipality or a standard for a regional government or a standard for a province. It's no longer a standard if everybody comes up with their own standard. Like we actually need one standard that works across. But any thoughts on how the different levels of government, what the roles of them should be?
Sure. Yeah, I think, I do think right now, if we think about where constitutional responsibility lies and who has the best tools to tackle this problem, all levels of government have a role to play. Paige, from your presentation and your comments, it's clear that there is, especially at the staff level in municipalities, a lot of expertise and a lot of opportunity to leverage that and to find some of those solutions, to share best practices. Where I see the big challenge at the municipal level is on the political side, quite frankly, where it's just not set up in a way to position it for success. The municipal councillors are too closely tied to a specific geographic area, and those existing homeowners and residents are too tied to the status quo to position us for the big change that we actually need. So I do see the municipalities still having a really important role to play to implement these pieces, to continue to try and make processes better, and to adapt and tailor for specific places. There is a huge role for provincial leadership here because they have the legislative tools and the need and the positionality to be able to put these changes into action. In terms of standardization, I think the federal government does have a role to play. I think, quite frankly, the most valuable role they can play is on the funding side and releasing and unlocking more money to facilitate projects. And we've seen some successes through the National Housing Strategy on that, and I think there's more to be done there. I would be hesitant to say we need the federal government to lead on the standards and to try and impose it across the province. That's or across the country, sorry. Even at a provincial level, obviously there's a need for some variation, but I think we can find easier alignment than we could in a national position. So I would say feds need to put up the money. The province can really lead with some policy frameworks to really raise the bar on making it as easy to build a multiplex as it is to build a single family house. And the municipalities have a big role to play in terms of implementing and tailoring to the local communities.
Thanks, Greg. There's lots of follow-up conversations to be had, but we have about a minute and a half left. And a question did come up on what does BIM bring to municipalities, and that probably requires its own session. But I'll take that as a first stab at it, and then we can continue in the discussion on the platform. BIM provides automation capacity at municipalities at a time that our municipalities are complaining about lack of resources and not having enough people to hire. We can actually add capacity to our municipalities, but most importantly, in my opinion, BIM is the foundation for digital twin. And we have the design community who's invested heavily in BIM, but our municipalities are asking the design community to dumb down the drawings to 2D and submit to municipality, whereas there's a lot of information within that 3D model that our municipality can use. So by us being able to accept BIM into our municipalities, we are basically creating that foundation for digital twin. I'm getting warning the session is going to come to an end very soon. Thank you, everybody, for participation on this panel. Thank you for the audience for listening to us. We'll come back on the platform and ask the questions over there. Thank you. Have yourself a great day.